Do you believe in gods? Some people claim that there is evidence of gods among us in the artifacts they found during their archaeological digs. But most of the time, it's impossible to tell whether these strange items were made by skilled artisans or by the hands of a god. There are some gods, however, whose existence is well documented. We just don't know what happened to them. Welcome back, everyone. Here are the forgotten gods. Number 10. The forgotten gods. Who are they?
First, we need to define our terms. What are we talking about when we say forgotten gods?
This could refer to any deity or religious figure that was once revered but is no longer. It could also refer to deities that were only worshipped in one civilization and have no connection to any other religion. In this video, we will focus on the latter definition. And now we ask the question, are there any examples of such gods? The answer is yes. Let's look at the most famous example of a lost god, the god of Atlantis. According to Plato, the Atlanteans had a pantheon of gods that were very similar to the Greek gods. However, there was one god that stood out above the rest, a supreme being that was the source of all creation and wisdom. Plato called him the One, but the Atlanteans called him something else. Unfortunately, we don't know what the Atlanteans called their supreme god, as Plato never recorded it. What we do know is that the Atlanteans believed that this god had a son who was born on Earth. His name was Dorado, and he was said to be the first king of Atlantis. According to Plato, Dorado was a great sage and lawgiver. He taught the Atlanteans how to live in harmony with each other and with the gods. He also gave them laws to govern their society and taught them how to worship the gods properly. Sadly, Dorado was eventually banished from Atlantis after he angered the king. He spent his last days in exile, but he continued to teach and write about the One until his death. After Dorado died, the Atlanteans began to forget about the One, and they turned away from the gods altogether. This led to the downfall of Atlantis and the death of its people. And now we come to the question, did the Atlanteans really have a forgotten god? The answer is probably yes. Plato wouldn't have invented the story of Atlantis if he hadn't believed that it was true. It makes sense that the Atlanteans would have had a supreme being like the One. All cultures have some kind of supreme being. It's just part of the human condition. We may not know the name of the Atlanteans' forgotten god, but we can be sure that he existed. And now we come to the next question. Where is the evidence? Plato wrote about the Atlanteans and their religion, but he didn't leave behind any physical evidence. The only evidence we have of the Atlanteans comes from archaeology. So far, archaeologists haven't found any evidence of a forgotten god in Atlantis.
However,
they have found other evidence that suggests that Plato's story may be true. For example, archaeologists have found ruins that may have been part of the legendary city. They've also found artifacts that date back to the time Plato said Atlantis was destroyed. All of this evidence suggests that Atlantis may have really existed. And if Atlantis existed, then so did Plato's forgotten god. Number 9. Gods in ancient societies. The idea of a forgotten god is an interesting one. It raises questions about what happens to the gods when they are no longer worshipped, and whether or not we are all, in fact, children of the gods. The concept of a forgotten god is explored in many ancient societies. In Hinduism, for example, there is the Puranas, which tells the story of a time when the gods were forgotten and humanity descended into chaos. The Puranas teaches that when the gods are forgotten, evil takes over and the world is plunged into darkness. This darkness can only be overcome when the gods are remembered and worshipped again. The same idea is found in Christianity, which teaches that when Jesus Christ died on the cross, he descended into hell and preached to the dead. Those who heard his message were able to escape hell and go to heaven. This shows that even the gods are not beyond death and that they can be forgotten. Number 8. Why do gods fade away? There are many reasons why gods fade away. Sometimes it happens because the people who worship them die out. Other times it happens because the people who worship them convert to another religion. Still, other times it happens because the followers of the god become too powerful and the god becomes just another part of the state religion. Whatever the reason, the result is the same. The god is no longer worshipped and his or her stories are forgotten. Number 7. The rise of new gods. As long as there have been humans on this planet, there have been gods. We don't know exactly when the first gods were created, but we do know that they have been around for a very long time. Some of the earliest gods were probably nature gods. As humans began to explore the world around them, they started to notice patterns in the natural world. They saw that plants grew and animals had babies. They watched the seasons change and the weather take turns. They couldn't explain these things, so they created gods to represent them. The most important gods were the ones who represented life and death. Humans have always been fascinated with these concepts, and they have created countless stories and myths to try to make sense of them. No. 6. Lost myths rediscovered. As time went on, humans created more and more gods. They created gods to represent everything from the sky and the earth to love and war. At one point, there were probably more gods than humans. Eventually, though, most of these gods were forgotten. We don't know exactly why this happened. Maybe the humans who worshipped them died out, or maybe they simply merged with other gods. Whatever the reason, most of these gods are now nothing more than myths. However, there are still a few humans who are trying to keep these myths alive. Archaeologists and historians are working hard to uncover the secrets of lost civilizations, and as they do, they are finding evidence of these forgotten gods. They've found statues and carvings that depict these gods, and they've found ruins that suggest these gods were once worshipped. These discoveries are helping to piece together the history of our planet and the humans who have lived on it. They're also helping to keep the memory of these forgotten gods alive. Number 5. Lost civilizations. When we think of ancient civilizations, we often think of places like Greece and Rome. But there were many other civilizations that existed thousands of years ago. In fact, there were so many that we may never know about all of them. Many of these civilizations had their own gods and goddesses. But as time went on, most of these deities were forgotten. The most famous example of a lost civilization is Atlantis. According to Plato, Atlantis was an island nation that existed in the Atlantic Ocean. It was home to a powerful military and a thriving culture. But one day the gods were angry with the Atlanteans, and they flooded the island. As a result, Atlantis was destroyed, and its people were wiped out. Of course, this story may be nothing more than a myth. But if Atlantis did exist, then it's likely that its people had their own gods and goddesses. We simply don't know what happened to them. Number 4. Lost artifacts. There are many artifacts that have been found that suggest ancient civilizations had their own gods. For example, archaeologists have found statues and carvings that depict deities. They've also found ruins that suggest these gods were once worshipped. One of the most fascinating artifacts is the Baghdad battery. This is an ancient device that looks like a battery. Some people believe it was used to power all sorts of amazing technologies. If this is true, then it suggests that ancient civilizations were much more advanced than we give them credit for. Of course, there is no proof that the Baghdad battery was actually used as a battery. It could have been used for something else entirely. But the possibility that it was used to power all sorts of amazing technologies is certainly intriguing. Number 3. Lost civilizations. Part 2. As we've already mentioned, there were many lost civilizations throughout history. Most of these civilizations had their own gods and goddesses. But as time went on, these deities were forgotten. One of the most mysterious lost civilizations is Lemuria. According to legend, Lemuria was an island continent that existed in the Indian Ocean. It was home to a race of highly advanced humans, but the continent was eventually destroyed by a natural disaster. Lemuria did exist, then its people had their own gods and goddesses. But as we've already mentioned, most of these deities were forgotten over time. No. 2. Did the gods really forget us? The idea of the gods forgetting us is a scary one. After all, if the gods can forget us, then we're truly on our own. But the truth is that the gods never forgot us. In fact, they're always with us, whether we realize it or not. The problem is that we have forgotten the gods. We've become so caught up in our own lives and our own problems that we've stopped taking the time to connect with the divine. But the gods are still there. We just need to open our eyes and hearts to see them. Number 1. Conclusion. The forgotten gods are a reminder that nothing lasts forever. No matter how powerful or influential a god may be, sooner or later he or she will be forgotten. This is not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it's simply the way of the world. As new cultures and civilizations rise, old ones fall, and as they fall, their gods are forgotten. But this should not be seen as a tragedy. Rather, it should be seen as an opportunity for growth and change. The forgotten gods may be gone, but that doesn't mean their stories have to be. As long as there are humans on this planet, there will be stories of the gods. And as long as there are stories of the gods, they will never be truly forgotten. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this. And don't forget to comment below with your thoughts on the forgotten gods. Have you ever seen anything that you thought was a miracle? Share your story with us, and who knows, maybe one day your story will be shared with the world.